Hey everyone, Erick Stakelbeck here. We've got a breaking news update on the latest between Israel and Hezbollah. Get all the information today right here on the Watchman Newscast. Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Thank you for joining us. If you tuned in to the Watchman Newscast on Tuesday, that was April 14th, you can find it here on our archives on the Watchman News channel. If you tuned in, you know that we were talking about the Iranian regime and its proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the Houthis in Yemen, Shia militias in Iraq and Syria. We talked about how, even though they've been hit hard by the coronavirus, they continue to plot evil against Israel and the United States. Well, we've got a breaking news update on that front. Before we get into it, I just want to encourage you to subscribe to the Watchman News channel here on YouTube. Give us a big thumbs up, like what we are doing, and be sure to click the notification button so you can get alerts every time we post a new video. You've got the newscast here every Tuesday and Thursday, and we're posting clips frequently from the Watchman TV show, which you can see every week on TBN and the Fox Business Network. Okay, let's get into it. On Wednesday, April 15th, just a day after our newscast, talking about Iran and Hezbollah plotting against Israel, the very next day, April 15th, we had a car traveling from Syria in the Golan Heights region near Israel's border, traveling from Syria into Lebanon. Now, this car reportedly had no license plate and tinted windows and contained members of the terror organization Hezbollah. This car was traveling from Syria, where Hezbollah has a base near Israel's border, we'll get into that in a minute, into Lebanon with God knows what in mind. Were they carrying weapons in the car? Who knows? But an Israeli drone took out this car, this Hezbollah vehicle heading from Lebanon into Syria. Now, Arab media reports, which aren't always the most reliable, are saying that Hezbollah operatives escaped this car before the missile struck, that no one was killed, that they all emerged unscathed. Who knows if that is true? We'll probably find out more about that in the coming days. But folks, I would say this is a case of message sent by the Israel Defense Forces to Hezbollah and its benefactor, the Iranian regime. Remember, we talked on Tuesday's newscast about the fact that Hezbollah, through Iran, is determined to establish a foothold, a new terror beachhead on the Golan Heights, right along the Syrian border with Israel, and they're doing it with the help of the Assad regime. Just last week, Israel released a photograph of a top Syrian army commander with Hezbollah operatives talking and planning and visiting Hezbollah sites on the Golan Heights. Again, just across the border with Israel. This is a no-go for the Jewish state to have an Iranian proxy, Iran's deadliest proxy, Hezbollah, which is not just a terror organization, which is bad enough, folks. They are a terrorist army, a terrorist paramilitary unit with tens of thousands of well-trained foot soldiers who have fought in Syria and other theaters in the Middle East, who have some 150,000 rockets and missiles at their disposal, pointed at every inch of Israel, who have a global network. Hezbollah also has a presence in South America. That's a topic for a future newscast. And of course, are very, very well funded and have a state sponsor behind them, the Iranian regime. All that said, Israel obviously cannot let Hezbollah set up shop in Syria on the Golan because unfortunately, Hezbollah already has that incredibly stronghold in southern Lebanon, also on Israel's northern border. Folks, what they want to do is establish a situation in Syria like they have in Lebanon, and Israel, rightfully so and wisely, says, no way, we're not letting it happen, and we're not letting all this transiting between Syria and Lebanon by Hezbollah happen, and that's exactly why we had this airstrike just yesterday. Message sent, but okay, what comes next? Does Hezbollah respond? Oftentimes over the past few years, when Israel has taken very well-justified action against Hezbollah and its various terror allies in that border region, Hezbollah will respond in some fashion, maybe fire a rocket. Think back to 2006 when it wasn't even a response, it was just Hezbollah acting on the offense, kidnapped 2 Israeli soldiers along the Lebanon border, sparked the 2006 Israel-Hezbollah war, which is a bloody affair, and Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah of Hezbollah, he's barely poked his head out of his bunker since then in the past 14 years. But we've been talking here on the newscast about this great northern war that's coming. I hate to say it, I hate to be a doomsayer, but I call it like I see it, folks, and that's why you watch. It is coming. A major conflict between Israel and these northern jihadi groups led by Iran. I'm talking Hezbollah, Shia militias. That showdown is coming, but we're seeing the preliminaries right now, and we'll see if there's any fallout from this drone strike that Israel carried out against Hezbollah operatives just yesterday. By the way, this follows not only that photograph of the Syrian commander with Hezbollah, and it's a message too to the Assad regime, folks, this strike, but also it follows a month ago, just around St. Paddy's Day actually, and the IDF also struck a car then because they thwarted a sniper attack, a Hezbollah sniper attack. According to Israeli military officials, they're saying that Hezbollah, with help from the Syrian regime of Assad, were planning a sniper attack from Syria, from that Golan region, against Israeli soldiers. Thankfully, the IDF broke that one up as well and took out the car that was carrying these snipers. So we're seeing the steady litany of events, really for the past 3 years, not only strikes like we had on these vehicles in the past month, but major Israeli airstrikes against Iranian and Hezbollah targets inside Syria. You would think that Iran and Assad and Hezbollah would get the memo, but just like they haven't been slowed down by coronavirus really to a large extent, folks, the Israeli strikes, which have been great, these preemptive strikes, which are defending not only the Jewish state of Israel, but defending the West, the front lines of the fight against these horrible actors, they're not really getting the message, it seems, the Iranian regime, because, folks, these are committed, fanatical, genocidal ideologues, and nothing short of crushing them is going to stop their evil and wicked plans. Unfortunately, that's the situation we are facing right now. So we will bring you, if something happens, if there's fallout from this Israeli strike against this Hezbollah vehicle, we will bring you a breaking news update. If there is fallout, hopefully there isn't, but if there is, in the meantime, another thing to keep in mind, this is interesting, the Times of Israel reported on this. I'm just going to pull it up here on my laptop, which you cannot see, but I assure you it is here. We had a little showdown, I guess you would say, between Lebanese army soldiers and Israeli soldiers along the Israel-Lebanon border this week. Now, the UN, remember, UN troops are stationed, UN peacekeepers, I should say. They're stationed not only on the Golan, I've seen them many times in my visits to the Golan Heights in Israel, but also in southern Lebanon. They're supposed to be keeping the peace. The opposite has happened. Hezbollah has built up a massive arsenal right under the UN's noses, but the UN apparently got in between Lebanese army troops and Israeli soldiers. Now, this is interesting because the Lebanese army, folks, our team at Christians United for Israel, I can tell you, has been promoting and pushing legislation on Capitol Hill here in Washington, D.C. in the United States to hold the Lebanese government and the Lebanese army accountable, because Hezbollah is operating a state within a state underneath their noses. So what's the Lebanese government? What will the Lebanese army do about it? Israel has made very clear when this great northern war comes that I've been talking about here, when it comes, all of Lebanon will be held accountable. The Lebanese army will be held accountable. The Lebanese government will be held accountable because they've been allowing this powerful Iranian proxy to operate on sovereign Lebanese territory underneath their noses. So that's something to keep an eye on, first of all. But I thought it was interesting, the UN, wow, now the UN rides to the rescue and gets in the middle. Here's a statement I mentioned from the Times of Israel that I wanted to read, that I think it's, number one, it'll make you shake your head, but number two, it gets to the root of the problem here that we're talking about. The UN on Saturday pleaded for warring parties in the Middle East to cease hostilities amid the coronavirus pandemic. Obviously, we've seen that hasn't happened, as we've reported here in the newscast. The UN envoys, pay attention here, folks, the UN envoys for Syria, Yemen, Lebanon, Iraq, and the Palestinian areas. Do you see a pattern here? Again, I'll repeat. Syria, Yemen, Lebanon, Iraq, and the Palestinian territories. We'll talk about it more in a second. The UN stressed that solidarity is required to face COVID-19, and the guns of war and conflict must be silenced to take on the coronavirus. I agree, but did you notice those countries, again, that the UN named? What's the common thread in all of those countries? Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Lebanon, and the Palestinian territories. Iran, the Iranian regime, is the common thread. They are the head of the snake for all the war and terror that the UN is talking about ceasing here, and wouldn't that be great? Who is behind it all? In all of those countries, whether it's Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, or Gaza. The Iranian regime is the octopus. They are the head of the snake that they've spread their tentacles throughout the region. They are attempting to surround Israel, and they're attempting to surround U.S. troops in Iraq. This is the reality of the situation. Hello, UN. Just tell it like it is. We all know what's happening here. But pretty interesting that the UN is telling all the players in the Middle East conflict to silence their guns as coronavirus is raging. Well, I see Israel doing cutting-edge work in combating this global pandemic. They've received high marks around the globe for how they've handled coronavirus. We'll have more on that on the newscast coming up, including some interviews from Israel with people on the front lines with amazing innovation, medical technology that Israel is using to fight this global pandemic. But the only player that needs to silence its guns and help to focus on the war at home and helping its citizens, imagine that, is the Iranian regime. Stop oppressing your people and stop oppressing people in other countries and meddling in other nations' affairs. That would be nice. That's the message for today. But you got your breaking news update, and we will have more to you, I promise. If anything escalates, God forbid, between Hezbollah and Israel, we will have a breaking news update here on the newscast. In the meantime, remember, subscribe, like what we're doing, share it with everyone you know. Give us a big thumbs up, click the notification button, join our team at Christians United for Israel, CUFI.org. I mentioned that legislation that we are pushing on Capitol Hill, that we've been pushing to hold the Lebanese government and the Lebanese army accountable. Remember, folks, if you're an American like me, the United States helps fund the Lebanese army. We give them millions and millions of dollars. That can't be a one-way relationship. You can't have the world's most dangerous terrorist organization, a terrorist army, Hezbollah, and the Iranian regime operating freely in your territory and expect loads of American taxpayer dollars to fall in your lap. It just doesn't work that way. That's the kind of work we do at Christians United for Israel, though. So if you're interested in really making a difference, join our movement at CUFI.org. We're over 8 million followers of Jesus, and we are speaking out for such a time as this, and we will not hold our peace. Also, check out the Watchman TV show if you love the newscast. The places we're talking about here, the Lebanon border, the Gaza border, Iraq, Jordan, we're on the ground. Israel, of course. Jerusalem's my second home. We're on the ground all the time in these places, bringing you the first-hand perspective. Now, we have some travel restrictions right now, but once it starts up, we'll be back on a plane to the Middle East. So you'll love the TV show as well. Security, history, biblical archaeology, a lot of great stuff. TBN Fridays, actually, a little update here. Just until May 8th, I believe, for the next 4 Fridays, we will be on at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on TBN. For all you, we're usually 10:30 p.m. Eastern, and a lot of times people DVR it, they fall asleep. Hey, you can watch it over your dinner, or your lunch, 4:30 p.m. Eastern here in the States, the next 4 Fridays. And then Sunday nights on the Fox Business Network, that's 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Check it out. Again, if you love the newscast, you will love the TV show. A full 30 minutes of on-the-ground, cutting-edge information. that you just won't hear anywhere else, folks. Certainly not in the mainstream media. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for if we have breaking updates. I will post it here to YouTube. If not, check us out next Tuesday and Thursday right here on the Watchman Newscast. Until then, stay safe, God bless you, and remember, never hold your peace.